All right, welcome to Film versus Film. This is Rot10Glory. I am joined today by the creator and writer of Six Gun Gorilla, Brian Christgau. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
Nice.
Thank you for mentioning Six Gun Gorilla.
Always, man.
Yeah.
Always.
Thanks. But we're not here to talk about Six Gun Gorilla.
No, of course not. But it's always, it's such a great accomplishment, and it does. It means that you understand storytelling, because someone who can create something successful on that front means, I respect your opinion on films all the more.
Thanks, brother. Thanks. Yeah, I'm just overwhelmed at how people have responded to it. Yeah, yesterday Clint Stoker was saying Brian Christgau is like the most underappreciated writer in CG. I was just like, really, dude?
I can't argue with that.
I feel like I'm just like fooling everybody, and I'm just like waiting to get found out. That thing where it's just like suddenly somebody goes, "Wait a second, you're not supposed to be here." But hey, man,
when you put out something bad, then maybe we'll change our minds. But you haven't done that yet, so I don't think it's going to be a problem.
I hope not.
So I'm really this suggestion you made. Really happy you did, because instantly fell in love with Captain Kronos, man. This movie is,
thank you,
what a gem, what a little gem,
isn't it? It deserves to be so much better known than it is.
It deserves to be. I can't understand why it's not a thriving franchise, to be honest with you.
It's a real shame, because quick history lesson for everybody. Hammer was the British studio that specialized in gothic horror films. They had a lengthy Frankenstein franchise featuring Peter Cushing as Victor Frankenstein, and the monster would be different in every movie. Played twice by David Prowse, by the way, who's best known for playing Darth Vader.
Yeah,
and towards around the time that this was made, which is 74, 75, I think.
Yes.
Hammer was starting to run out of steam. And Brian Clemens was the writer and the creator of The Avengers. Now, I'm not talking, of course, about the Marvel Avengers. I'm talking about the British TV series with Steed and Mrs. Peel.
Yeah, right.
Patrick McNee and why am I blanking on her name all of a sudden? You remember in the cat suit and everything?
Right.
Why spazzing on her name? Because that's such a
I'm pretty bad with that
kid.
That stuff myself.
But
he's kind of a legend as a writer.
Yeah, he is.
Brian Clemens.
Absolutely. And so he was evidently hanging out in the Hammer Studios commissary and said to a friend, like, geez, they've done a werewolf movie. They've done like 7 Frankensteins, about like 8 Draculas. What are they going to do next? Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde? And it just so happened that one of the heads of Hammer Studios was there and overheard this and turned to him and said, "Do you think you could write that?"
Oh, wow.
And that started Clemens's brief but very memorable stint with Hammer Films. He made 2 films. One of them was Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, and the other one was Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter, which was intended to be the first in a franchise. This was going to be their new franchisable character.
I can see why, man. I mean, it has franchise power written all over it.
All over it.
Absolutely.
And he was, God, this drives me crazy, because Clemens said in an interview that he had written, I think, 7 or 8 one-page synopses, like one-page treatments, for like every film that he was going to do in the series, and they were going to involve other monsters, werewolves, mummies. There was going to be time travel. His name is Kronos, after all.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, the studio didn't know what to do with this movie. It got dumped. No,
That's really sad.
yeah, absolutely no publicity, no advertising, nothing. And
Man.
yeah, and so when it came out, it was to no, I was going to say little fanfare. It was to no fanfare, and so it kind of sank into obscurity, except of course amongst Hammer horror fans.
Right.
And I'm a huge Hammer horror fan. Absolutely, since I was a little boy, I always loved the Hammer films. They're horror films, but there's something cozy about them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they have a great reputation.
oh,
I mean,
fantastic!
most people that hit on it, they really appreciate what they put out. They certainly cared about what they were doing.
Yeah, and what's great about those movies is that they were very low budget, but they didn't look it. And the costumes were very lavish. The
Yes.
sets looked wonderful. But the most important element of the Hammer horror film was the fact that no matter how absurd the story was, the actors would always play this roles straight.
Yes.
Very often with balls out conviction.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's very true for this film as well. Now, Clemens is listed on database as having only directed Kronos and a TV series, one episode of a TV series. That's it.
Yep.
But he, as a writer, he's got over 100 credits. He's listed as a producer on what you had mentioned before, the Dr. Jekyll,
Sister Hyde.
Yes. So this is his only film that he ever directed.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm assuming because it didn't do well. I mean, or did he just did it sour him on being a director?
I would have to dig into some interviews with him and see. I don't recall him saying that that it soured him on directing. I think it was probably the fact that it wasn't a success. And just like, man, what did I break my balls for? Because making a film is very, very difficult and very, very time consuming and exhausting too.
Painful, man. Yeah.
Painful
it's because a painful process, no matter what.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Roger Corman said that the advice he would always give his young directors, people like Joe Dante and a bunch of people that went on to like bigger and better things. He would always tell them, sit whenever you get the chance, because you're going to be on your feet all day and everybody's going to be asking you questions constantly. And so, he decided to stick to writing. And I think it's a terrible shame because I think Captain Kronos is such a special movie.
If this is his one and only film effort, it's absolutely astounding that he was able, because it flows beautifully. He employs all these wonderful tricks with the, obviously the budgetary constraints were there, but it doesn't, not once, not a single time does it interfere with the enjoyment of the film, because he just works within those constraints so perfectly.
Oh my God. Yeah, he does. For those of you who have never seen it, Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter is about a ex-mercenary after the Napoleonic Wars who is a vampire. He is of German extraction, and yet he's walking around with a katana, or is it actually it's a wakizashi, I believe, right? So he's walking around with like a German saber, and also because generally speaking, the Hammer movies took place in Germany. Like that was like the Gothic fairy tale land in the Hammer films. And in this case, I got a German actor, Horst Janssen, who's terrific.
He really is. Man.
He really is. He is, man.
It's wonderful, and he's quite the ladies' man in Kronos as well. Dude. I mean, this guy.
Yeah, boy. He is a PIMP.
Yeah.
Pimpinest vampire hunter ever. And look at
Dude,
Carolyn Monroe, man. Oh my
oh god,
god.
dude, the ladies are absolutely stunning in this film. Every single one of them, just that old school '70s vibe.
Hammer time, man. Hammer
Beautiful,
time.
and he is such a player in this. It's so funny, man. And
It
like you
is.
said, they play it straight. They never, the actors really never let you know that they know that they're in a B-rate. They're full on giving it everything, playing it absolutely straight. It's so much fun, man.
Yep. And that's the thing is very often filmmakers, especially these days, feel that if you let the audience know that you're in on the joke, that it's going to make the film more fun. Wrong. It's the
Right. No,
opposite.
exactly.
That was the thing with, like, not to bring it back to Six Gun again, but I remember thinking, like, I want to play this thing straight because it'll be more fun that way.
Exactly.
If you're and so you don't have to cast like winking at you, or mugging for the camera, it's played wonderfully straight, and yet it's a movie that I think is incredibly stylish. It does have a sense of humor.
Oh god, it absolutely has a sense. I just fucking adore it. And fairly early on in the film, he comes across a woman, and I can't remember which actress it was.
Caroline Munro when she's in the stockade.
Yes, and she's she tags along with him for the rest of the film. But there's just a wonderful scene where some of the, I guess, the townspeople, the village people, are kind of out to get Kronos because they think he's murdered someone in cold blood, right?
Yep.
And there's just this wonderful scene where he double pulls out the swords. It's just glorious. And then what's wonderful is the glee. Yes.
You mean this?
Yes.
That scene right there?
Yes, I actually thought about, like, dude, I got to screen grab this sequence so I can show it because it was just beautiful.
This, by the way, is one of the original lobby cards that I found on eBay, and I've got them all around my room, actually.
That is very cool, man.
Yeah.
But that scene, I loved it. And then her glee at him, and he's not a killer. He doesn't want to kill regular people. That's not his thing at all. So this whole mob of guys, he just completely incapacitates them. And her glee at watching him do this was just,
infectious, so much fun. Yeah, man. And that's the thing about Kronos. Wow. If there's one word to describe Brian Clemens' work, it is eccentric.
Oh yeah.
And Kronos is a very eccentric character. He smokes weed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that. Right. He smokes
right. He likes cigars. Right.
Yeah, the Chinese herb that he likes to smoke. Right. And so he meditates.
Oh yeah, with and he has like a hood that he wears while he's doing it.
He sort of like throws like a kerchief like over his head, right? And he's just like in this position with the swords in his hands, right? While Grost, his hunchback assistant, is making the sword that he's going to need to defeat the vampire.
Holy sword.
Yes, this is God's blade, forged for your black heart. Fucking hell, man. And the fact that Grost, the hunchback in this, is not what you would expect from a hunchback character at all.
Right. Exactly. I love the character. I love the team, the duo. This is why Kronos by himself, wonderful character, but the duo of the two of them, so wonderful. And this is what I'm just like, why? How in the world did this not live on? Like, this should be just one of those franchises that it has, of course.
It has. It is a cult classic. Sure. As a matter of fact, this is really interesting. Kronos has a little bit very small history in comic books.
Oh yeah, dude. I snagged this too.
Just found out about the new Captain Kronos comic book the other day, and it is on its way.
Yeah.
when I found out actually that Hammer was going to be because Hammer is back, it's under new management. It's not the old Hammer. The movies that they're making, they made a remake of Let the Right One In, which I haven't seen. And
now I would recommend that you see that, because you know
Okay.
the director, the guy who did the remake of Let the Right One In, which is, I think, is just it wasn't called Let the Right One In, it was just called
Let Me In.
Let Me In. Yeah, that's the director doing the Batman movie.
Oh, that's right.
Robert Pattinson. And I was
yeah, Matt Reeves.
When I found out about that, I was like, that made me happy that they hired, first of all, they didn't hire a bubblegum director for the Batman film.
Yeah.
And they hired a director with horror movie experience.
Yes.
Who can deliver that atmosphere and tension. So yeah, it's a good movie, man. It's actually good. And if that's the new Hammer, I would say they're picking up where they left off, because it's solid.
Then what was the one with General Radcliffe? I think The Lady in Black. That was another one. Yeah, which was
it's respectable. It's not.
It's okay.
The horror genre has been so bad as of late, like by and large, on a percentage.
Well, because there's such a glut of it these days.
Oh God!
It's the best of times and it's the worst of times for horror. There's so much of it that the films that really are special get lost in the shuffle.
They do. They do. And then sometimes they overhype something that is just you finally see it and you're like,
it's totally mediocre.
This makes no. First of all, it's filled with plot holes. It makes no sense. And they had a spark of an idea that was great, but they didn't execute, and it's just like, yeah, of course they had great marketing because the spark of the idea was there. That's right. Easy to put into a minute 30 trailer and make it seem incredible, but it doesn't deliver in the end. So
oh God, like that abortion of a Invisible Man remake.
Oh God, don't even get me started on that shit. But I felt that way about the one where the creatures could, hear everything. They had to be completely silent all the time.
Yeah.
Which one was that? The guy from Office was in it.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the title. Yeah, but you see, that's the
sequel, and it's like it was just hyped out of proportion. Thought it was going to be this just incredible thing, and I watched it. I'm like, this is absurd. What is happening? This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Well, the fact that I can't remember the title off the top of my head is a pretty strong indication, Right. A friend of mine says that we're going to know which films are worth watching 10 years from now. That's when the cream of the crop will rise to the top, but until then, it's just like even the most hardened horror fan can't wade through all of the junk that's out there.
Yeah, exactly. Slipstick is here. He asked if we started early. No, we started. It's 8 p.m. Eastern is when we do the show, so.
We're gonna try to keep it a little tizite tonight, because of course we have to go over and pay our respects to Simon Sim Poitier, who is launching Tales from the Natverse tonight. So everybody, go check that out, man. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna go hang over there and support our boy Sim, man. This is. That project's just gonna kick some serious ass for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Before I was talking about Captain Kronos in comics, this is the Halls of Horror, which was like the Hammer magazine. It's actually Hammer's Halls of Horror. I think they only had maybe about like 7 issues of this, and in this issue, there's a little adaptation, condensed of Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter. But this is really a character, cool, God, they could have done so much with.
Oh, I absolutely, I really have my fingers crossed that somebody that really has respect for it and understands the material brings this thing back to life for film or a series, because it absolutely could. I think as an ongoing series, perfection. It could just go on forever.
It could. And one of my dreams has always been to write this character.
Oh, yeah.
He's actually, really my two favorite characters of all time, Kronos would be number 2, and number 1 for me would be Solomon Kane, Robert E. Howard's monster killing Puritan. And there's a lot of crossover there. Sure. They have a lot of similarities, but also they're also polar opposites.
I just love the way the actor played this character is so absolutely wonderful. I mean, this guy, he was just so
absolute panache.
Yeah, man.
He's just a badass, man.
Yeah. And I really like the fact that they didn't feel the need to make it a muscle bound kind of thing, that had nothing to do with it, really,
Not at all.
Yeah.
And it's also worth mentioning that the sword fight at the end, which is spectacular.
It's a lot of fun,
right?
Yeah.
It's the climax absolutely pays off in a major way.
Great twist, man.
Yeah.
Great twist. Yeah.
That was staged by Bob Anderson, who is the guy who did the sword fight choreography for The Adventures of Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, and all the way up to the Lord of the Rings movies.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
I don't understand how the studio didn't understand what it had on its hand. This should have been a film that
it's from so the time unusual,
of its release, it should have been playing at midnight showings.
Yes.
All over the world ever since it showed the first time. I mean, this should be just a phenomenon that,
I agree. And when I saw it as a kid, it blew my mind. And I recorded it off of television. I had a VCR. Oh God, I was I was happy to have a VCR to be able to tape this, so I could watch it over and over and over and over again. And of course, this is one of those movies I own in like every format except like Laserdisc and 8-track. I got the VHS, I got the DVD, I got the Blu-ray. It's absolutely magnificent, I think. And everybody, right now it's on Amazon Prime. Is it
on Amazon Prime? Absolutely. If you have Amazon Prime, go and just watch this film. It's a joy to watch, start to finish. It's so much fun, man. What do you got? You got a figure? No. Yeah.
This is a I think. Let me see. I think it's a custom, is what it is. It's not an actual like official figure. There's somebody that was selling these on eBay. It is number 46 of 60.
That is wonderful, man.
And you can see you right really there the sword.
You are a huge fan.
I am. It's for me. It's one of my favorite films. It's up there with like Escape from New York, Mad Max, Dawn of the Dead, the Sergio Leone Dollars trilogy.
We're gonna have to go at it when it comes to Escape from New York, for sure. Because I have a deep dark hatred for that one.
Really?
Yes.
For the original.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh wow.
I understand. I guess there's a part of me that understands the love for it, but I just think it's an abomination. I think it's horrible.
How dare you, sir?
I know it could be blasphemy. I guess. Some people might think it's
like, hey, man. Whenever it comes to any of this stuff, I mean, what is more subjective than art, right? And what is one person's masterpiece is another person's piece of shit. And
I think that is true. Although there are people that think when it comes to art, nothing is objectively bad, and I disagree with that. I wholeheartedly disagree with that, and that's not to say that something objectively bad cannot be enjoyed, because there are people that enjoy things that are objectively bad on purpose.
Yeah,
they collect them. They love them. That's not the point. The point is like things can be objectively bad when it comes to art, and I disagree with people that think otherwise. But maybe I'm just an asshole.
No, not at all. Although the older I get, the more I'm of the opinion that the intention of the artist matters less and less, and that it's about the final product. And the question is it entertaining?
Sure.
If Tommy Wiseau had made The Room the way it is on purpose, we would all be hailing him as a genius.
Correct.
Right? You would be astounded. You'd be like,
you can't. Yeah, you can't make something that bad on purpose.
No, absolutely
it's actually
not.
Impossible.
It's impossible. Right.
The intention of trying to make it bad on purpose would be too ever present. It was his genuine desire to make something good that makes it so wonderful. That's the point.
And yet, you can't take your eyes off it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mesmerizing. It's entertaining from beginning to end. Yeah. Whereas, Captain Marvel, right?
Exactly.
$200 million budget, and like you couldn't give a rat's ass. And then there's this turkey that is, way more entertaining.
Okay, so this is a really good example when you're talking about The Room. It's objectively, everyone knows it's objectively horrible. It's terrible. It's a horrible movie, but beloved and enjoyed by people all over the world. So it's like, that's what I mean, is something can be objectively bad. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Slipstick says Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is objectively bad, but intentionally good. But intentionally good. Well, no, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is more as a satire, right? So it's not bad. It is the way it is on purpose. It's
which I think more or less is
satire.
What he's saying. He just said it in a very complex way.
Objectively bad. Okay,
kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. Hail Slipstick. But yeah, folks, check out Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter. It's a very curious cross between a Hammer vampire movie and a swashbuckler. That's, I guess, the best way to describe it.
Yes, dude.
The concept for the vampire. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
What I love about the vampire in this is that he doesn't steal blood, which is to say he's not drinking people's blood. He's not sucking the life out of people. He's taking he's sucking time out of people.
Yes.
And that's really interesting.
Yeah,
you've never seen it. Yeah, you've never seen like a vampire that made young people old.
Yeah, I really like that concept. I think that was I have to say I like it better. I like it better than what we now accept as the norm for vampire. It was very cool. And again, working within the constraints, Clemens as a director really displayed that wonderfully, this rapid aging thing. Again, he had to really be creative because he couldn't show it happening.
No,
really.
No, so not without it being hokey as hell.
But it worked. He was able to pull it off irregardless.
Wonderfully, right?
It works very well. Yeah. Great makeup, man. It was so much fun. Oh shit.
Glad you enjoyed it, man. Because
this is an instant. I'm gonna definitely be recommending and showing this to other people. It's just great.
Oh, glad you enjoyed it and didn't waste your time.
Yeah, I hope that they can bring it back to life in some way or another, and not in the modern day sense of what typically is done when they do that. It really needs to be someone that cares about it.
Like moi,
like you.
See, dude, when I found out that they were doing the Captain Kronos, I'm sorry, when I had heard that Hammer, the new Hammer, was going to be doing a Captain Kronos comic book, I actually sent them a letter and a copy of Six Gun and was like, consider me, please.
Yeah.
So one of these days, man, I would love to write this character.
Just keep plugging, man. You're gonna get to that point.
We'll see.
So this is a film that came out and this is interesting. It came out in 1974. I feel that the 6.5 score on database
That's good.
It should be high. It is, but I feel it should be higher.
Oh, I think it should be a 10 personally, but
I don't
no, of
think
course
that.
it
I
should
mean,
be
like
higher,
people,
but 6.5 is the sweet spot, generally
it's
speaking.
it's at
It's
that point
regarded
where
as the sweet spot.
that's where if something falls below that, that's where I start to wonder, like, is this something worth watching?
Right.
For me.
Right.
So, and it's like this film is so much. I mean, this should be in the 7.5 range for me, no problem.
Easily.
Like, that's where it should be. Like, so
It's
I'm
at
not really
least an
sure
8.
why. I'm not sure why it's at that level.
Well,
But
because also keep in mind it's a pretty old film. It's a pretty obscure film, at least where non-cult horror fans are concerned, where regular people are concerned.
that's true.
And like I said, the 6.5, that is actually considered the sweet spot. That generally speaking, yeah. Okay. Because also sometimes movies that are rated a little too high, like I'm sure like Batman versus Superman is probably like a 9 or a 10 really, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Out of curiosity, I got to see that now.
You get a lot of, especially right when a movie like that comes out. Lord of the Rings, of course, that had a 10 even before the very first one, for Fellowship of the Ring. That had like a 10 before it was even released.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the IMDb isn't exactly completely reliable.
I feel like over time, I think it actually is. I think what you're saying, when a film is first released,
that it evens out. Yeah,
a lot of shenanigans going on.
Yeah,
but Batman versus Superman is a 6.4 right now. But that's with over 600,000 votes, and that's why it evened out, because I'm sure it was bolstered early on. But Kronos, I'm surprised it's only got like a little over 4,000 votes, and I'm surprised that it hasn't it isn't at a higher point, just because it seems to me the 4,000 people that saw it, I'm surprised didn't really love it.
Well, keep in mind, if you're talking about somebody that's a millennial horror fan, they're not going to get this. They're not going to be able to connect with it, I don't think. I shouldn't. I'm generalizing, because I have a very good friend who's a millennial, and he loves cult horror films.
Yeah,
he's every bit as much as I do. But it's it's a very eccentric film. And not everybody's going to be able to necessarily vibe with that. Brandon Teenold, the guy who does the cult movie reviews on YouTube, he actually just recently reviewed this, and he was like, it's okay." Like, really? What? Yeah, really? Yeah, and he's really good, and I usually agree with him, but I was surprised that he didn't enjoy this more, because I think it's an incredibly enjoyable film.
I do too. It has great twists and turns. It holds up, absolutely.
Doesn't it?
Holds the test of time. Great dramatic score. The lead actor just owns the character,
doesn't he?
As does the rest of
the rest of the cast, man.
Poking around, I was like reading. People were like, the acting so-so, and I'm like,
what?
What are you talking about?
Did they watch a different movie?
Delivered on this. I do wonder, like, there seemed to be an obsession with hunchbacks during this time in filmmaking, and I'm just curious how did that happen? Where did the hunchback obsession come into play?
It was sort of a reflection of Dwight Fry's character Fritz in the original James Whale Frankenstein.
Okay, yeah.
And the character that people normally think of as Igor, right?
Yeah.
But that's not Igor. Igor is played by Bela Lugosi in Son of Frankenstein. Actually, I think Lugosi's best performance is in Son of Frankenstein. But yeah, Clemens was playing with that fixation on hunchbacks, right? It's like they're always like these grotesque cretins, these troll-like creatures, and he was just like, what if I had, what if you have a really brilliant, intelligent, charming, sweet-natured guy. He just
He was
happens to
awesome.
have curvature
Yeah.
of the spine.
I loved it. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
so
Grost
good.
is a wonderful character, and the actor who plays him, John John Cater, is just absolutely fantastic. Also, have to mention Ian Hendry, who plays Caro, who is a roughneck sword for hire, who is hired by the vampire to do battle with Kronos.
Yes.
You know, there's that wonderful scene in the inn, which I'm not going to give away.
No.
You're
Well,
not
that's
laughing.
the thing. It's like I don't want to. There's so many incredible elements to this movie, but I feel like while there are these twists and turns and great, it's not overdone. It is a very simple structure, and to give away any of these would be doing a disservice to people.
I agree.
And I know that a lot of people have not seen this movie, obviously. I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, I can't help it. I gotta share the story because I just think it's too funny.
Do it.
So Brian Clemens wanted to cast Ian Hendry in that role. Problem is that Ian Hendry was a notorious drunk, and would like show up on the set drunk, and so Clemens was like, "Okay, man, I want to give you this part, but you got to promise me no drinking." And Hendry was like, "Absolutely, you got it. Absolutely, I won't."
Said every drunk ever.
Yeah, and so he shows up on like the first day of filming, and he's in the makeup chair with a pint, knocking back a fucking cold one, and Clemens is just like, "Ian, you said you weren't going to drink," and Ian Hendry just looks at him and says, "I'm not drinking. This is fucking lager."
Exactly right. That's the thing you have to understand about a hardcore alcoholic. If it's anything other than their absolute drink of choice, isn't drinking.
Exactly. Oh god, but he's also absolutely terrific. It's a small but very memorable role.
Yeah. It's good stuff. I can't. It's just everyone. Again, it's available on Prime if you have that.
Check it out. Check it out.
And I love Amazon Prime. To me, is some of their originals. Flirting with the wokeness, of course, absolutely. But by and large, in terms of what they have on tap, they have the best selection of older, like a great mix of stuff. They don't seem to be really biased one way or the other. They just offer a lot of great content. So
absolutely, and fuck Jeff Bezos, but I do have to agree. They do have a lot of good cult stuff on there.
There he is.
Closer look. Oh. Isn't that a good sculpt?
This is a custom. This is nice. They did a good job, man.
Right? And then, of course, captured. Yes, God's blade.
And this forged is the actual God's blade.
Yep, forged for
which
your black
I found,
hearts.
I found that very interesting too at the end, which I won't go into. But you know what he does with the sword at the end is like, that's wouldn't be what I would have expected.
Absolutely.
Seeing as it seemed to me that again it was clearly set up to be, this was going to keep going and going. There were going to be more films. There were going to be more adventures.
Absolutely, but he wasn't going to face this kind of vampire again.
Right. Okay. That was the idea. This was a unique creature of the night.
Yeah, one of a kind. Because remember, there's also a moment when he says that there are all kinds of different vampires.
Right. Which is a great concept. I love that.
Which is a wonderful concept, right?
Yeah.
So there could be, it could be a regional thing, or maybe Japanese vampires are different from German vampires, or French vampires are different from English vampires, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And but yeah, it's a wonderful movie, folks. Definitely check it out if you're in the mood for something that I think is a jolly good time.
Yeah, it took me by surprise. I was expecting a lot more schlock, and I what I watched was not that. It was something very. It had deep respect for itself, and also knew how to have a good time with the audience. Yeah,
It's just such a shame that the studio didn't know what to do with it, because it came out in 74, but it was shot in 72, if I'm not
right.
mistaken. And so it just sort of sat there, but this was when Hammer just really didn't know what they were doing. And they were starting to put a lot of nudity in their movies, which I think was a
Oh
mistake.
yeah, that was a. I actually some of the I like to poke around a little bit on this stuff, and the actress,
Mm.
they wanted
Caroline
her
Munro.
to, yeah,
Yeah.
they wanted her to have some nudity in the film, but she was notoriously just did not do that. And
Well,
she actually was she was like, I wish I had been really acting during the 50s where it was left to the imagination. She was very, I think, kind of really disappointed that that's where things were going. But they,
yeah.
came to a compromise where her hair could cover.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Yeah, she said this
absolutely
in an
wanted the
interview.
nudity, and she wouldn't do it.
And thank goodness, because I can't believe I'm saying, like, thank goodness you don't see Carolyn Monroe
Right,
nude, right?
right. We
But
won't hold it against you.
the Hammer movies, man, it was all about the booby dresses. Do you know what
Right.
I'm saying? It
Yeah,
was a less is more thing.
exactly.
They were sexier when they
Exactly.
didn't have actual nudity. When they started putting actual nudity into them, the movies like Lust for a
Yep.
Vampire,
Just
it
for
just
the
was
sake
it
of
was
it, it
yeah,
just
it wasn't.
cheapens. Yes,
Yeah, and it's just
it's
not
not
as
necessary.
sexy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm
Carolyn
really
Monroe.
glad that she held to her guns and was able to come to a compromise with it, because she brought a lot.
Right?
Her just pure joy and lust for for Kronos was so it elevated his character exactly where it needed to be. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, it was so much fun.
Kronos,
Uh,
like I said, is a PIMP.
yeah, dude. I
Ah,
thank you for bringing this one into
oh,
my
you're
little
welcome,
circle,
man.
man.
You're
Very cool.
welcome.
Something that I find interesting, considering that this film came out in 1974, the Blade, the first appearance of Blade, Vampire
1973.
Hunter,
Yeah.
was in the Tomb of Dracula in 1973.
Yep.
And you said this film it was filmed in 72. So it's obviously like, I think there's obviously some kind of crossover going on here.
Well,
A
vampires
little
were
bit.
very popular at the time,
Right.
you know? And the reason why there's so many vampire movies is because, well, vampires are very easy monsters to do, right? All you need is a pair of, like, tent peg
Right.
fangs,
It's not
and
complex makeup and yeah.
exactly. It's just like that's why there are so few werewolf movies and there's a billion vampire films. But
Right.
also, Hammer had been doing the vampire movies, like, of course, the legendary Dracula series with Christopher Lee. They Vampire Circus. That's another one that I highly recommend. That's on Amazon Prime right
Okay.
now.
Cool. Ooh, I
They're
would check that
yeah, they were like looking for, it's like, well, how do we like make this new, how do we make this fresh? But they were trying to do new things
out. Yeah.
with the subgenre, and generally with very good success, considering how good this is and how good Vampire Circus is.
Yeah.
So vampires were just like on the brain.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
and in Tomb of Dracula, it was Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan who came up with the character, because this was also the era of the blaxploitation movie. And Marvel was always
Very clear. Very clear
quick,
influence on this
right?
character. Yeah.
Basically, imagine if Richard Roundtree in Shaft was a vampire hunter. That's
Yes.
Blade.
Yeah. It's really cool. And again, this was 1973. There was again this whole forcing diversity, and it was always there,
It's
man. The
always
characters were
there.
always there. This thing was way back, 50 years ago. this character emerged.
Shang-Chi, master of Kung Fu, because then Kung Fu was like really like became a trend. So then, of course, they had all these Kung Fu comics.
Yeah,
Without a doubt.
What do you guys? They sit here and pretend, and I guess all they have to do is convince the newest generation that this shit never exists. Like that this is the first time this ever happened, and it's like no. Back in the day.
Look at how badass, man.
This is his first appearance, and it's he was there, and
awesome, cool,
Wesley Snipes, man. He was born to do this role.
A very big fan of Marvel Comics. This was the movie that he ended up doing, but the movie he wanted to do before this, that he'd been trying to get made for the longest time, he wanted to play Prince T'Challa in the Black Panther.
Right.
But he couldn't get that bankrolled. This, however, he did actually manage to get made.
Yeah. The way he plays this character is so spot on, man. There's so many moments in the original Blade that are just he's just being so playful and so perfect in this character that I have to say the first 20 minutes of the original Blade is perfection. It's exactly what it is meant to be and should be.
Well, there's some dodgy CGI. That looked dated when this came out. I remember.
That doesn't bother me. I don't care.
No,
about
it's forgivable.
I really
don't. No, I don't either. But I do remember seeing this in the theater when it first came out, and when that first vampire, burst into flames and crumbled, my heart sank. I went, oh.
But the scene, the imagery of the bloodbath and
it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
The
Euro trash vampires.
About the party and like the whole tone of it, and then Blade's first appearance, his introduction, the dialogue, the one-liner, it's all handled so perfectly.
It is.
It's so spot on with this comic book character, the tone of it. It's perfect.
They nailed it. Stephen Norrington absolutely nailed it. Stephen Norrington was a guy who did a low-budget movie called Death Machine that is well worth checking out. Definitely get the director's cut of that if you can. It's really good. That is a movie that was shot for peanuts and looks like it was shot. It's like a $2 million movie that looks like it was made for about like 20 or 30.
Yeah, right.
and that's how he ended up getting the job for Blade. And he just absolutely fucking nailed it. David Goyer.
They definitely, for me, the weak point of the film is the whole Deacon Frost narrative. To me, I didn't.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is a problem with these movies, almost across the board, universally. When you first introduce, it's the first Blade, right? You're introducing this character into cinema. It doesn't have to be an end of the world scenario, people.
Yes.
Why do you have to leave yourself somewhere to go? It doesn't need to be that. Just have him kicking ass.
The Joker,
The
Joker doesn't have to be the guy who murdered Bruce Wayne's parents.
Exactly, dude.
Right?
Exactly. It just
Blade shouldn't. Spoiler alert! I'm sorry, folks. I'm assuming you've seen Blade. If you haven't, plug your ears.
Yeah. Now we can spoil this whole Blade. Everyone's seen Blade.
Right.
The Kronos one. I don't want to give away shit, but Blade, we can talk about the whole thing.
Right. Deacon Frost doesn't have to be the guy who bit Blade's mother, and then she shows up vampirized. You didn't need any of that.
Yeah.
The only motive that Blade needs to destroy Deacon Frost is that Deacon Frost is a fucking vampire.
Exactly.
That's
and it doesn't need to be him trying to take over. It doesn't need to be a world-ending fucking thing. It's especially in the first film of what is clearly going to be a franchise. Don't do it. Just stop it. Not every fucking threat has to be a world-ending threat. In
Exactly.
fact, it almost always works better and is more entertaining when it's more intimate, when
Yes,
it's a more
smaller.
smaller, like The Thing, right?
Right.
John
Right.
Carpenter's The Thing, a handful of people dealing with a threat in an in an enclosed environment. It's like, just stop doing that shit, people. Now, I'm not
I
saying
know.
maybe the third, fourth, fifth installment
Right.
it escalates into something of that nature, that big, but you don't. Why pull out those big guns for the first iteration? It's not necessary.
It's not. And also, the movie could have lost about 20 minutes, 15 minutes. It's
You're
over
right.
long.
It does. It runs a little long, but goddamn, there's so much good stuff.
Oh, there
I feel
is.
like
There
we're
is.
kind of railing on it, but I
know. Don't
absolutely,
get it twisted, people. This is still an awesome movie.
It's one of them. It's one of the more fun comic book. It's really fucking well done. It's a fun ride. It has misfires, absolutely. Steven Dorff was one of these guys that was supposed to be a superstar, and it never quite worked. And I don't know if that was talent level or what, and he's okay in this.
He is.
But I just don't think that the entire narrative with Deacon Frost was very good.
No, definitely
not
not David Goyer's finest moment. David Goyer, in case you folks didn't know, has written every single like comic book movie ever made, virtually. Right. You look him up on the. I'm not even gonna start like rattling off like the list of credits. He is still in many ways the superhero comic books screenplay guy,
right?
And he ended up directing Blade Trinity when Guillermo del Toro declined to return, which is a real shame. Of course, Blade Trinity, not so good.
Franchise killer.
Franchise killer. Blade 2, I think spectacular.
I love it, man.
I love it.
Okay,
and
great.
A little connection between Kronos and Blade. They both meditate.
Yes.
And they both smoke the sticky icky. Because in Blade 2, when Norman Reedus asks
and preferred weapon, obviously.
Sword. Yeah, man. But you remember in Blade 2, he's like, hey, B-Man, a little toke of the smoke? He doesn't say no. He says, later.
No, there's absolutely, and I do think there's some inspirational points there. There's no doubt. And that's the beauty. I love your suggestions, and that's the whole concept of this entire series is taking films that share DNA, that have some kind of not just obvious, but there, sometimes there's more subtle layers of things where they are connected.
Spiritual cousins.
Yeah, exactly. Who really, and I think this character should have just been the main baddie in this film, and that's the Quinn character. I think Donald Logue, that guy stole the show.
Yeah, he absolutely
fucking made Steven Dorff look. He absolutely every time he's on screen,
blew him off the screen.
Electrifying.
Yes.
The guy was just beautiful in this thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He would have been a much better arch villain rather than a henchman. Yeah. Great comic villain.
Yeah, he was so good. And every scene with Blade, every scene with Quinn, Whistler, absolutely wonderful.
Chris Christopherson, man,
so good.
Catch you fuckers at a bad time. when I saw this in its theatrical release, when he gave that line, the audience just roared.
Yes.
He's fantastic in this, without a doubt. And Snipes' performance is really, really, really fantastic. It's like you're looking at this, crappy poster of him. Of course, he has that stoic look, but he gives real depth to that character.
Oh God.
He's somebody that's really consumed with self-hatred, but
Yes.
they've taken their greatest weakness and made it their greatest asset.
Yep.
He's taken that self-hatred and he's turned it outward and pointed it in the right direction.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of complexity there, psychologically, emotionally. He captures that. He, again, almost, I guess, in a similar vein of Kronos. The comedy's there. The humor is absolutely there, and in those moments where it's required, Snipes it's so perfect.
Yeah,
Just
he's great.
delivers it. Well, man.
There's another thing that he does too. If you'll notice this, and it's in all the movies, there in scene after scene, you see him striking like a comic book superhero pose.
Yes. Yes.
And he does it in a very subtle way too.
Yeah.
He'll move himself in such a way he'll end up in that position.
Yeah.
It's really great. He's somebody who was obviously a very, very big fan of the comic books.
Yeah.
And and that shows in his performance. What you get is somebody who is stony on the exterior, but you can tell there's a lot going on underneath.
Yeah.
And that takes real talent.
Yeah.
Charles Bronson did that very well in the original Death Wish.
Yeah.
Where somebody like their exterior is very stony, but underneath, there's the oceans of emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. This is it really is one of the more fun, I'd say, in recent memory. It's one of the more fun comic book films. It's unfortunate it went off the rails, obviously.
It did.
It's
still a good movie,
sad.
though.
It's sad, and it seems like it really stalled Snipes' career when it happened as well, which is unfortunate.
Oh, you're talking about Blade Trinity. But
yeah,
the franchise going off the rails as opposed to the movie going off the rails.
It really hurt I think it hurt his momentum, his career. I was really happy what was the film that recently came out? It was about blaxploitation films.
The Dolomite one?
Yes.
Where he plays Derville Martin? I still haven't watched that.
You fucking nailed it, man. You will absolutely love Snipes' role in that film. That is one to watch for sure.
I love me some Dolomite, man.
Dude, they did such a great job on that film.
Amazon Prime, the Human Tornado is on there. The Human Tornado. Folks, definitely check that out. You need more Dolomite in your life, trust me.
Yes, absolutely. There was and Blade has just tons of comics out there, all kinds of just product everywhere. There's even a pinball game on PlayStation where me and my lady got obsessed. This was one of the best digital pinball games you will ever play.
Oh, really?
It's the only pinball game I've ever put enough time into actually beating. Like both of us have beat Dracula on it. It's a wonderful pinball game. And of course it's got the, authentic voice acting moments. It's got all these story components. It's wonderful. So Blade to me is what, Kronos should have enjoyed all of these things as well.
Yeah.
There should be all these films, shows, video games. I mean, it has it all.
Yeah. The Blade anime, I don't understand why that's not available in the United States because it's very good.
Is it? I see. I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I definitely.
Who voiced Blade? Did they get Snipes?
No. It's only in Japanese, and somebody made fan subs. For some reason they same thing with the Iron Man anime that was written by Warren Ellis. For some reason Disney won't show it over here or whoever.
What?
Yeah, it's just buried. It's very strange. Very strange.
Damn.
Yeah, because they're both very good. The X-Men anime I think is finally available here in the States though, which is also good. I have no idea. I really don't know. You know, there are so many of these characters that they should have loaned out for animation adaptations. You know, I would love to see a Hong Kong style movie, or a Hong Kong movie, you know, that would like a Hong Kong Batman or something like that would be a lot, could be a lot of fun. But you know, they did the Blade anime, but for some reason they didn't want people in the West to see it. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, in Blade, I hope somebody, again, I hope it gets revitalized in a way, and I hope it goes. It's gotta. The thing about the original Blade is it still had some of that rawness, the grittiness.
Yeah, man.
Obviously, they started getting too slick. They started relying too heavily on, special effects and making it slick. And it's like, no, Blade needs some grit. It needs to be raw. It needs to be about raw, like physical, martial arts shit, sword play. It doesn't need all this slickness.
You know who they should have gotten to play Blade after Snipes? They should have gotten Michael Jai White. Yeah. I don't understand why they didn't do that, because the thing about Snipes is he is a martial artist.
Exactly.
Okay? And
Required.
so that's and I don't know the name of the actor, but the new Blade has been cast, and it's not Michael Jai White. It's just right. It's a guy that's not a martial artist.
Yeah. So are they working on a new one?
Yeah, but it's unclear whether that's going to be a TV series, if it's going to be a movie franchise. Nobody knows. There is an indication that at some point they're going to do the Marvel monsters. They have to.
Yeah.
And some people are suggesting that he might be introduced in the next Doctor Strange movie, the one that's being directed by Sam Raimi.
Nice.
So I don't know.
That could work well.
It could.
If they let Sam Raimi has to be allowed to be Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like let him loose the whole time, but it's just like there's those moments in Spider-Man, right, where it's like, what a weird idea to let Sam Raimi make Spider-Man movies. But it turned out to be a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
And then there's those moments like in what I think it's the second one with Dr. Octopus, right? Where it just drops into full Sam Raimi horror mode.
Yes. Which is great.
And it's like, okay, maybe you don't let him do his full-on thing all the time, but let him do it sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's experienced enough of a director to know when to rein it in and when to just cut loose.
Yes.
And Spider-Man 2, I really feel to this day is like one of the best comic book superhero movies ever made.
Absolutely. I think
it's in the top 5.
I think there's a lot of agreement and consensus on that point, that it really is one of the stronger comic book films.
That one, X-Men 2, also that was a real high point that hasn't been matched in the franchise since.
Yep. I mean, when it comes to comic book films, one of the best ever is Road to Perdition, but it's not really. Most people probably don't even know it's a comic book.
No, they probably no. They're generally speaking not. It's interesting because back then, if you had a movie like Road to Perdition, that was based on a comic book, a very good one, by the way. It's they would downplay that, or
exactly
hide
like it's a point of shame.
And now it's the opposite. Like when you watch the Jonah Hex movie, which is a mess, because they tried to turn Jonah Hex steampunk. I don't know. Well, they did that in the comics too, and it's just an abortion. But if you watch the opening credits, it's screaming at you, "This is a comic book movie.
Right.
This is based on a comic book."
Hey, did you know it's a comic book?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It used to be something
strange.
Like in fine print at the bottom. Like,
dude, when Jerry Conway, who was one of the main writers on Tomb of Dracula, where of course we got Blade.
Yeah.
He used to say that he would leave that off his resume. Like he created
Exactly.
Law and Order.
Right.
Talk about a successful franchise. I mean, I can't stand it, but hugely
Right.
successful. And he said
Jesus,
that
man.
he said, yeah, it's like I left that off my friggin' resume.
Yeah.
And he wrote some
Yeah.
of the best Marvel comics of the 70s.
Yeah. So what, at the end of the day, if you're just looking at, which film, I know you love, obviously Captain Kronos is, you have a special place in your
favorite.
heart.
Yeah.
So obviously you choose Captain Kronos over Blade.
And it's the better film. It's the better film.
It is. I agree. I agree.
And I think, people are going to think like, oh man, they're being like really harsh on Blade.
I don't think, dude, I absolutely adore the ride of Blade, especially,
it's
like
great.
I said, the first 20 minutes, the introduction of the character, the progression of things, up until the point where Deacon Frost's narrative is introduced, I would say it's damn near perfect comic book film fun. It's absolutely perfect. But it misfires enough times that you're like, God, you almost had a masterpiece here, but you let it slip through your fingers.
Yeah, they really did. And a little interesting bit of trivia: if you have the DVD, or I don't know, I don't have the Blu-ray, but I'm assuming maybe it's included on there too. There's a alternate ending in which Morbius the Living Vampire makes an appearance. And that was Snipes' idea, that he wanted Morbius to be in Blade 2, but that ended up not happening.
That's too bad.
Well,
Snipes, and he's smart, he's like,
he is.
I want to be this character for as long as humanly possible. And the guy is like, dude, I mean, he could have played the character for a lot longer. Obviously,
well, he
he's
fucked
a
his knees
physical
up.
specimen of like.
He fucked his knees up though on the second one, evidently.
Yeah.
But still, he had enough presence,
Yeah.
And hey, his arm still worked fine. Could do a lot of hungar, And it was somebody that obviously, just from the way he moved across the room, you could tell knew how to fight.
Yeah. So no, Blade is a wonderful. It's a very fun movie.
It is.
There are moments of absolute brilliance in it. I absolutely just loved. I liked revisiting. It's been a while since I'd watched it.
Yeah.
There were still moments where I was like, wow, this is why I remember falling in love with this a bit.
Right. And the scene in the archive.
Yeah.
That to me is always like a moment where I'm just like, man, this is a fucking good movie.
It's very good.
Yeah.
But I do agree. Captain Kronos is a pure filmmaking, just the entire package of it, the experience of it. It was so refreshing. It was they really just captured something in a bottle with Captain Kronos. And I hope.
Yeah, they did.
I hope somebody brings it back to life in a big way, as a series or a film or whatever.
Me too. And that they don't botch it.
It's fucking you.
Oh man. Oh, it's one of those fantasies,
Yeah.
That and Six Gun Gorilla versus Tarzan.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, Slipstick is piecing out. Thanks for tuning in, brother.
Yes. So I think we covered it. Really, really fun stuff. These are great movies. Both of them are worth watching, but I think there's so many people that have missed Captain Kronos. I had never stumbled on it. I didn't know it existed. So I, salute you for introducing me to it. It's a great thing.
I love sharing the joy.
Yeah, man. You have such a great knowledge of cinema, man. It's a joy to talk to you every time about.
Oh, thanks, brother. Right back at you, man. Right back at you. This is always a fun experience.
Yeah, and I haven't had a chance yet, but I will get. We had technical difficulties on the previous episode, but I will be. I'm going to edit that together and get it. I'll get it posted up again, because that was. I really think we had a great conversation.
We did
on the last episode with Driver and
Drive.
Yes.
But we wanted to do something a little bit lighter this week, so
yeah, we'll get pretentious again next time.
We'll see.
Maybe. But now we're going to head over and join our boy Sim for his launch party from Tales for the Napverse, because that's where it's at right now. Let's go hang out and party.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Good talking to you, Roddy.
Skip Edwards art. Well, we're wrapping it up here, Skip. We're gonna head over, and is that on Drew? Is that on Drew's channel?
Yeah, it's on Drew's on Drew's channel. I think Michael Bancroft is gonna have Simon on later, so it's gonna be like an all-night party for Tales of the Natverse people. Go and fucking back that book.
Absolutely.
If you don't, I pity the fool.
I pity the fool.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next week with